So on today's video we're going to be learning how to make a simple darted top with facing. So for us to make the facing, first of all we'll take our main pattern. Of course you already know how to cut out the pattern on fabric, lining, and also to make the darts. So for today's video I'm making a top with facing. So you just mark out the space you need your facing to occupy, and in this case I'm going to be using Ankara fabric as a facing, the same fabric as the main material as a facing. So I'll just mark out the shape on the sleeve, and then I also mark the shape on the neckline. It doesn't have a particular formula, it just depends on how far you want it to go. Whatever you mark, make sure you leave enough allowance for folding and top stitching. So now I have the neck facing in the main pattern, and then I have the armhole facing. So I'm just going to cut it out with my scissors, and here it is. So in this case I'm cutting the front and the back together. So if you're cutting your front and your back differently, you can actually do that too. You can cut out the armhole for the front, cut out the armhole for the back. So here is the facing for the front and the back. So I also do well to mark the shoulder points and then the armhole points, so I don't get everything mixed up in the process of cutting. So I take it to the fabric, I fold the fabric. So for the armhole seams, I'm cutting both the front and the back together. I'm going to cut 4 armhole pieces. I'll cut the back neck on selvages, just like we cut our main fabric for the back. We cut it on selvages, making room for the zip allowance. After we cut it on selvages, we also cut hard gum stay for it to be able to give it more strength. So we just cut it all the way down. So now I'll fold and then cut for the front piece. Since the front piece has a lower neckline than the back piece, I'll just cut that out too before I cut it on the facing. So since I didn't trim the lining, I'm going to do that right now on the lining. After trimming the lining, I also trim the fabric neckline. So for the armhole facing, you also cut it the same way. Just use your pattern and cut it that same way. So after cutting everything, we're going to cut the hard gum stay for it. So you cut times 2 for the ones you need to cut times 2 for. You cut times 4 for the ones you need to cut 4 times. Remember, after fixing the hard gum, after cutting the hard gum stay, the next thing is to iron the hard gum stay. So you already know how to iron the hard gum stay from our 6-piece skirt tutorial. So we cut it all the way around. Okay, so this triangle you're seeing here is not really part of the facing. It's just one of the designs I want to paste in front of the blouse. You're going to see how it comes out all nice and beautiful. So this for the neckline, and then this is for the armhole. So next thing, we'll take it to the iron, and when we take it, after ironing it, we take it to the sewing machine. So here it is. they are all well ironed. We're going to take them to the sewing machine so that we can reinforce the stitches around the edges. And there's something I usually do for this facing. I usually, so after top stitching round, I'll stitch from the edge, the part where I need to fold. I'm going to stitch on it 0.5 inches away from the edge, so that stitching 0.5 inches away from the edge helps me to be able to fold the facing. Okay, so that's what I'm actually doing now after the top stitch. So 0.5 inches away from the edge. Don't mind me, it's like I have a little bit of tape in my eyes, so most times I really mark them because somehow I already get to know the 0.5 inch points and all that. So you trim off. So here we have it. You can see how easy it is for me to fold. Normally without this top stitch, you find it very hard to fold there. So now that we've done that top stitch, we now fold over and stitch inside now. There's this look it gives it. By the time you're done, it looks like you actually stitched it 2 times, and it makes it look kind of cute. So we stitch it to the end, and we do the same thing for all the pieces. So you see how it looks. By the time we're stitching, we stitch on this edge, so it looks like we have 2 stitches. So I'll do the same thing for all the pieces and all the facings. So this for the base of the front. So this is a triangle I said I was going to put in front. So the triangle is like a full, okay, 2 triangles joined in the middle, and then I made a little cut along the neck area. So here are the other facings. Remember to remove all your thread. It's one thing that can actually give you an untidy finish while you're working. So you use your pin, place your facing from the neckline. For the neckline, after you place your facing there, you attach it to the shoulder, attach it to the zip area, and then you stitch. So when you're done stitching, you iron. The ironing process is very important. So if you look very well, you see somehow that the picture of the fabrics I sent were a little bit wet, but that means you have to sprinkle some water and then absorb the water with your heat. So I'll also attach the facing for the armhole area. After I attach the facing with my pin, it's very important to pin first. You now top stitch along the edges of the facing. So I'm going to do this for the front, I'm going to do this for the back piece, and it's going to come out so beautifully well. So remember to always cut out your loose threads. It's something that can actually make your work look very local if you don't do that. So this is what it looks like. So I've done it for the other side and it looks so cute. So this is it for the front, pinned without stitching. So I'm going to stitch it and you can see how it looks. We take it to the iron. I've already attached our label. This is the point where you actually get to attach your label if you have any. So next thing, we join shoulder to shoulder. Remember, the first rule in dressmaking, joining clothes, is join front to front. So the part that now has the facing can now be referred to as the front of the fabric, the front of the lining, So you join the front of the back lining to the front of the front lining on the shoulder. So you join them using 0.5 inch sewing allowance, stitch it all the way. Remember to backstitch. Backstitching helps you to strengthen your stitches and lock them up. So you do the same for the both sides. Remember to keep removing your pins all the way. I can't emphasize enough on this so you don't get to hurt yourself in the process of wearing the clothes. So this is what our outside looks like. So this is what we're going to have. So we're going to do some open seam ironing. So we open this point and iron it. So we'll do the same thing to the fabric. We'll join shoulder to shoulder. So now that we've joined that, we're going to bring the fabric and the lining together. But then that will be, of course, after I'm done attaching this design on the outfit. So I'm just going to pin it all the way around. Pin on the neckline. So in case you just have a funny design to attach on your fabric, you could just do it at this point, because you have to do it before you attach the lining. So I pin it all the way around and top stitch. I've already folded the edges very neatly with iron. I didn't top stitch the edges of this one because somehow I just didn't want it to look too overdone. I just wanted it to look like it's part of a fabric. So as you're working on it, you'll be removing your pins. Very important. So if you did your stitching well, you're going to notice that the lines align. This shoulder, the point where we're doing on the shoulder on the lining will align with that of the fabric. That's if you stitched well and you cut well with the right allowances. So I'm just going to pin all around the neck, all the way from the back neck to the front neck to the middle, and we're going to pin them together. By the time we'll pin them together, we join them together using 0.5 inch sewing allowance. So I'm just going to measure from the edge 0.5 inches and then stitch. When you get to that point to join on the shoulder, you come back stitch to reinforce your stitches, but then you continue stitching. So after stitching, there's something we call neck notching. So we just do some tiny little cuts all around the neck. One, it's for balancing. You need it to be able to balance your neckline so that it looks ironed and it just relaxes. But without this notching, you might end up, even after ironing it, the neck looks rough. So this is what it looks like when we're done notching. So we're going to top stitch. We'll move the bulk toward the lining. Note, we move the bulk toward the lining. If you move the bulk toward the main fabric, it will. So after we move the bulk, we top stitch the lining. I've already taught you how to do that in the pencil skirts and 6-piece video. So now we pin the armpits together. Remember I said it's going to be a sleeveless top. So for us to make a sleeveless top, after we've joined the neckline together, we pin the armpits together evenly and then join them with 0.5 inches all the way around to the other end. So we're going to do it for the two sleeves, for the two armholes, for the left and for the right. So after we do that, we do an inseam notching just like we did on the neckline. So after we notch all the way around, remember the reason we're notching is to relax it so that it looks all ironed and balanced. So after we do this, we're going to cut it off. We're not cutting out the entire allowance, we're just going to cut out maybe like cut halfway so that it reduces the bulk on the armhole area. So we'll do it. After we do that, we top stitch the lining on the armhole area. It's very important to top stitch, still for balancing. By the time you notch, top stitch, it makes it top notch, so you won't be able to, so you'll be able to wear it all relaxed, even if you don't want to iron it. But of course it's very important that you iron it. So I'll start top stitching from this side, but I can top stitch from this side, get somewhere around the middle, then I'll continue top stitching from the other side. or I can just continue top stitching and then pushing it inside just like this. You can actually see me struggling with it, but I'm a little comfortable starting from one side and then finishing from that side. So you just keep dragging it gradually and pushing it in. Just make sure you're making contact with your lining that you're top stitching, but in this case you're actually going to be making contact with the facing and not really the lining per se, because you've already used fabric to do the facing. When I'm done with this side, I'll proceed to the other side. I'll top stitch the other side all the way around. I'll join the front armhole to the lining armhole to the main fabric armhole. After joining it, I'll do that inseam notching and then cut through too. So remember to eliminate your threads. So I'm going to push my hands inside to drag it out so that you can see how it looks. Yours should look exactly like this, if not better. So when we are done, we're going to take it to the iron and iron it, but of course that will be after we're done with the other side. To continue top stitching from the other side. So this method might actually be more convenient for you, so you could try it out too, rather than pushing all the way down to the other end. So you can see I kind of stopped halfway too, so drag it out to show you what it looks like now. So we take it to the iron the neckline, iron the armpits, and then we proceed to the next. So what's the next step? The next step is to join the base together. So once you're done with the neckline, you're done with the armpits, you join the base together. So if you notice, I shortened the lining by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to join the base of the lining to the base of the fabric like this. Stitch round. So after joining the base, I'm going to join the sides. Always use 0.5 inches. Okay, so joining the sides now. Okay, I'll also join the base on the other side too before I start joining the sides. Since we've already locked in the armpits, we can join the sides and turn out from the front bit. So you can see the way I'm struggling with this one. There are two methods now. So you join it up to a certain point and then leave enough allowance to turn out. I just have a little enough allowance to turn out. So I'm going to try stitching it a little from the base. I'll notch the midpoint on the base, try stitching it to bits, then I'll top stitch the remaining space. But then it doesn't give me the kind of neat finishing I need, so for the next one I'm just going to drag it out. I'm going to stitch the back totally by dragging out from the front. So just watch and see how it's done. So I have some space left here after I've stitched the inside. So I'm going to top stitch that space. Okay, you can see the tiny space here. So I'm going to top stitch it. So now I'm going to stitch the other side from the front. First I'll stitch one side, then the other side I'll turn it all over from the front. So after stitching it, I still have a space left. So I'm going to drag it from the front and turn it outside in. So from the outside I'll drag it inside so that it can show me the wrong side, and then now I'll top stitch it. I'll stitch it before pushing it out again. To notch at all times, trim off the excess thread before you turn inside out. So when we're done with this, you don't see any trace of improperly finished work. So I'm going to do the same thing for the front piece before taking it to the iron. Then after doing that, we'll return after ironing, and then we're going to fix our zipper with the closed zipper method. From Eric's Academy of Fashion, the writer of the book Pattern Making for the Shapely African Woman and Advanced Pattern Mastery for the African Woman. Advanced Pattern Mastery for the African Woman is available on Amazon. You can order a copy or wait till we get the copy available in Nigeria. So thanks for watching. Remember to practice. It's not just enough to watch this video and then keep it in your storage and say you know how to do it. You just have to practice to prove to yourself that you